In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree-hugging, hippie, free-to-be, you-and-me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while
it's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
Good afternoon, Philadelphia. This is Rick Robinson. You're listening to America Off the Rails on WNJC 1360, the powerhouse of Philadelphia. I do want to take just a moment. For those of you who've been hiding under a rock, there has been a mass shooting incident in San Bernardino, California yesterday at around the same time, actually. So I want to take just a moment to give those that were lost yesterday a moment of silence. Trust me, it won't last long, otherwise the station manager might actually kill me. Alright, so I figure that's probably about the most silence I can get away with without somebody calling for my head or wanting my immediate resignation. I did feel that was kind of a necessary thing to do. The first part of the show is going to be really fast-paced. We have about 3 different segments that I want to go over and get into. And then for the last half of the show, I'll actually be joined by one of my partners in crime over on my home network, the Spark Radio Network, and our first affiliate, K98Talk.com, where his show can be heard every Wednesday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central in the evening, the Conservative Curmudgeon. You may know him from Facebook. He's had a pretty prolific page over there for quite some time. You may follow him on Twitter. You may have liked him in both of those places, but now you can hear him live in your ears every Wednesday night. And in case you've never had a chance to hear him before, he'll actually be here with us live for the last half of the show. So I do want to hope that to say that you stay tuned for that. Now, we have a lot to talk about today. Part of it, of course, is going to be the shooting. We will probably save that for the last segment. Before we get into that, there are 2 other things that I really, really want to touch on pretty quickly and kind of go at them at rapid fire, because the idea for the guest kind of came up last minute, so I'm condensing the show. So you're going to get about an hour's worth of content in the first half hour, and then about another hour's worth of content in the second half hour. So it'll be the 2-hour show that basically lasts 60 minutes, to borrow a phrase from another friend of mine, Jason DeWilkins, who currently has his show on hiatus. Alright, but anyway, so without further ado, you guys have heard me railing about Trump now for a while, and I've told you time and time again that I can't vote for him in the primary, but I would probably vote for him in the general. I want to let you listen to a story that's now a little bit old, and then I'm going to give you my take on it, because that may have changed for me, and not necessarily in a positive way. But let's give this a listen, shall we?
Donald Trump facing new criticism for something he did on the campaign trail last night in South Carolina while defending his debunked claim that he saw thousands of Muslims celebrate the collapse of the Twin Towers here in New York. He appeared to mock a reporter with a disability. Take a look.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Maybe that's what I said. This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
That reporter he is talking about is Serge Kovaleski, who now works for the New York Times. As you can see right there, he suffers from a chronic condition that impairs movement of his arms. A Times spokesman says they find it outrageous that Trump would ridicule the man's appearance.
All right, so there you hear it, and it's an audio of a video clip, so it doesn't quite do it justice. But his arms are flailing, and you can tell from his vocal tones that he's trying to make fun of someone with a disability. Now, I'm not a namby-pamby type guy, but let me be honest with you about something. Due to circumstances beyond my control, I do have some disabilities of my own. Hit me up sometime, I may tell you the story. But safe to say, I've been made fun of more than once, and it took me a long time, a very, very long time, to find a way to be comfortable in my own skin again. Now, not only do I take comments like he's made and the actions that he just did very personally, but I also have children with special needs. So let me tell you something that I understand about human nature all too well. If you can make fun of and belittle the weak the way that man just did, you neither need nor deserve power. And you can like me, you can hate me, you can turn off the radio if you don't like what I'm saying, because I'm going to tell you something, and a lot of you that are Trump supporters are not going to like to hear it. You are no different than the sycophants you've been railing against for the last 7 years that have been following Obama around like a bunch of bootlickers. And yes, I'm angry. If you can't hear it in my voice, I am visibly angry right now, because let me tell you something. This is something that I never thought I would see from people that claim to be conservatives. I have seen other conservatives eviscerated by you Trumpkins because they don't fall in line behind your guy. This is the same thing that we rail against about this mindless, mind-numbing following along of an idea just for the sake of the idea. It is maddening to watch it happen to your own party. And no, there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. But let me tell you the one thing that I will do. I promise you, as of right now today, I will not vote for Donald Trump in a primary, and as of right now today, because I think if you pay really close attention to that video clip, and you can find it on YouTube, and you look at it on your own, and you tell me that you're okay with that. If you are still finding a way to excuse what that man has done, your choice of candidate is the least of your problems. I cannot and will not support a man who is so cold, so stone cold, that he makes fun of someone who has had obviously a much harder life than Donald Trump. Not only is it a wrong thing to do as a human being, it's a terrible thing to do as an American, and it is a completely abominable thing to do as a presidential candidate, to use your stump to make fun of someone who is disabled. Not only is it disheartening to me to not only see it happening, but to watch it be widely accepted and excused in this country. In this country. It is maddening to me. I'm going to tell you something that I've said a couple of times, and I honestly don't remember if I've said it here. So if I'm repeating myself, please forgive me. My show airs all over the place, and half the time I don't remember what I've said where. These are my thoughts on Trump. I really have, along the way, tried to get behind the guy, but then I see a glimpse of somebody that I cannot support. The high school bully. The popular kid who knows he's popular, who thumbs it in everybody's face. Who puts the 7th graders in the lockers just because of the fit. Who ties kids' shoelaces together just because he can. That's Donald Trump. Is that really who we need as our next president? You know, everybody laughed at the concept of everybody equating Donald Trump to Biff Tanner. After seeing this clip, after listening to that clip over and over again, do you realize with the number of shows that I do and the number of different places that they go and the fact that I do occasionally try to make sure that each one gets at least a little bit of fresh content, do you realize how many times I've had to listen to that? How many times it is seared into my brain watching the man with the tribble on his head make fun of somebody with a disability? Over and over and over again. And there's an entire group of my party, the conservatives, that tell me how much they enjoy freedom and how much they want to stand up for the little guy and how much they wish that people would realize that conservatives are not the mean ones and we're not the nasty ones. Really? We're not? Are you sure? Because if you're excusing this, if you're condoning this, then you need to take a long, hard look in the mirror, because I'm going to tell you again, if you are condoning what this man did, or you are finding any way to excuse it, then who you are planning to vote for president is the least of your problems. Now, back to Trump, because there's an interesting correlation that's been rattling around in my head, and I know I've said it all over the place, and again, I don't remember if I've said it here. But there's been a show that I've been watching on Amazon. And speaking of which, Amazon is a sponsor of the show, so make sure you go check them out once in a while. Once we get it all put together, the Spark Radio Network and the America Off the Rails website will have links to Amazon on our site, so make sure if you decide to purchase from there that you show us some love first. Go to our page, click on the link, and follow the steps there, and that way the show not only gets credit as a sponsored show for Amazon, but also we get a little bit of love in the process. I'll make an announcement when that's officially ready to go. It'll probably be a couple more weeks. That being said, I have been watching a show on Amazon because I got myself a nice new Fire Stick for Christmas a little early because it was on sale. It's called The Man in the High Castle. And it's basically an alternate history where it takes place in 1964, 65-ish America. And in this timeline, the bomb was dropped on America first, not on Japan first. So the country's been divided in 3 segments. The East Coast to roughly Oklahoma-ish is the German sector. There's a section in the middle that spans, I think, basically part of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, all the way up the line there, that's considered the neutral zone. And then the left coast is actually part of the Japanese Empire. Why am I giving you the backstory? Well, first of all, I want you to go check out the show, because, Amazon's a sponsor. Tell them I said you. Life's great that way. But also, the other thing to keep in mind is we're talking Nazis in America. I wonder why I would be bringing that up, because there was a scene in there that reminded me of this scene being played out on national television, where one of the characters was actually driving through a small town. He'd had a flat tire. He's driving a truck. Police officer pulls up beside him, gets him out of the car, starts helping him change the tire, offers him a sandwich, all that cool stuff. Then all of a sudden, these little flakes of something that at first I thought were snow start falling all over the place. And you're looking around, and there's not a cloud in the sky, there's sun's out, and you're like, why is it snowing? And he's looking at it as it's touching him and getting this really wrinkled up look on his face, and the cop, without missing a beat, says, "Oh, don't worry about it, that's just from the hospital." And the guy's like, "That's from the hospital?" What do you mean it's from the hospital? He said, "This time of day, every day, they incinerate the old, the infirm, and the dead." Notice they made a point of breaking that up in 3 categories. Let that sink in for a second. Now, why do I bring this up? Because I keep talking to you about the parallels of what we're going through now to what we were going through in the beginning stages of World War II. The parallels are fairly freaky. The only difference is, as of right now, up until now, we've kind of been playing the role of France, sitting back on our heels, not really wanting to engage, not sure what we're going to do, because this time it's different, because it's not necessarily a government, it's a group of people, and it's religious, and we have religious freedom, and we're wringing our hands because we don't know how to deal with it. All fine, well and good, moving along. But at some point, what could happen, and what may happen, and what I've warned you, for those of you that have been following along on Facebook, and now on the radio for nearly 5 years between the two, if and when we go dark as a country, and make no mistake, we're nearly there. Look at all the rioting, look at all the looting, look at all of the people that are now basically making insane demands on college campuses. And we'll talk about that a little bit more after the break when Grouchy gets here. But let's let all of this, all of the craziness, every last bit of it, let it sink in for just a minute. And look at what's going on. And you tell me that if you let this incident and the other incidents and the making fun of everybody and the threatening to put marks on Muslims if he becomes president, if you really, really, really take a long, hard look at the big picture of Donald Trump's behavior, can you not see how close we are to becoming the principal player in World War III, assuming the role that Nazi Germany had in World War II? Am I saying he's the Antichrist? No. I'm saying we have a really good shot at being Germany in World War II as Americans in World War III. And if we go anywhere near the road that Germany went in World War II, number one, we ain't coming back. Number two, we're going to make Nazi Germany look like a bunch of Girl Scouts if we go dark, and we're getting really, really close. And for all of you that are making excuses for this nozzle head just because he's made all of this money and he's popular on reality TV and you think he's going to be the next best thing since sliced bread, you really don't know what the heck you're talking about, and you need to pay closer attention because Donald Trump is a nut. Nut bar, certifiable. He can't take criticism. We have the same thing going on with the president that we have now. Why do we need another term of a sycophant freaking narcissist? Because it's insane. Okay, I think I've railed enough about Donald Trump because we still got plenty stuff to talk about. I'm already about halfway through the segment, and I got a guest coming up in about 15 minutes. All right, so moving right along, next segment, next section, we've covered Donald Trump, for what I hope to be the last time. Now, more about the shooting incident. San Bernardino, timeline yesterday. There was a shooting where at least 17 people at last report were injured, 14 people killed. Reports range from 1 gunman to 3 at last count. Most recent speculation and police report indications as of yesterday were that it was 2 males, 1 female. One of them has been named as Sarid Farouk, who is a confirmed Muslim. At last known, no one was 100% positive that the named person was exactly the same person as could possibly be the suspect, or maybe not quite the same guy. At the time, or last evening, at about 11:20 my time, I think, CARE, actually no, it was 10:20 my time, CARE put together a press conference. I couldn't pull any of the audio, but I do have a clip from the press release they put out right before they did that press conference, and it says the following: "We condemn this horrific and revolting attack and offer our heartfelt condolences to the families and loved ones of those killed or injured," said the CARE LA Executive Director Hassan Alouche. "The Muslim community stands shoulder to shoulder with our fellow Americans in repudiating any twisted mindset that would claim to justify such sickening acts of violence. CARE is America's largest Muslim civil liberties and advocacy organization. Its mission is to enhance the understanding of Islam, encourage dialogue, protect civil liberties, empower American Muslims, and build coalitions that promote justice and mutual understanding." Okay, so that's all well and good, and if you listen to the press conference, it sounds great. They say all the right things, they make all the right moves, it mirrors a lot of what's outlined here in this press conference. The problem is, you don't have any way of knowing if it's true. I know, some of you are rolling your eyes at me right now. There is a practice in Muslim religion, or Muslim Sharia law, that is known as taqiyya, depending on who you want to hear the pronunciation from. Taqiyya is a very, very, very interesting practice. It gives a practicing devout Muslim the ability, not only the ability, but the authority to lie as given by Allah. In the Quran, it specifically states, because Allah was complaining about a group of people that were blaspheming against him, I believe is the exact reference, and one of the followers of Allah went to Allah and said, "Allah, we could kill them for you, but to do this we must lie." Allah responded by saying, "If you are lying to do things in my name that I have condoned, then you are perfectly acceptable in lying for both your protection and for my glory." Loose translation. I don't actually have the Quran pulled up in front of me. But that's basically the gist of it. They have been given permission by their God to lie. My God tells me it's not okay to do that. So that's another reason why as soon as somebody starts saying how we are basically all worshiping the same God and we need to just deal with it, I bristle every single time. You can ask Dave from the Finding Common Ground show on Saturday over on the Home Network, because I completely flipped out on him because he basically said something about people needing to stop taking religious texts so literally, and I flipped the biscuit. The same thing happens when people try to tell me that Allah and Jesus are basically the same thing, because they're not. I'm never going to tell you that they are. I'm never going to accept that they are. So we might as well just stop that discussion. Anytime it comes up, right, nip it in the bud. Just done, over, not going to happen. Allah, Jesus, nowhere near the same. Not going to happen. But, everybody wants to, because CARE is finally starting to figure out, and some other Muslim groups are finally starting to become vocal about these attacks, and more often. So everybody is hearing it and they're seeing it and they're like, oh, the moderate Muslims are finally starting to speak out. Okay, sounds great on paper, looks good on paper, but how do we know they actually mean it? That's always been one of my problems with practicing devout Muslims. You never know when they're being honest with you and when they're not, because their own beliefs and doctrines allow them to lie for not only their safety, but for the glorification of their God. So again, I ask, does it really matter that CARE wrote an article and held a press conference that denounced these acts because self-preservation, lying for self-preservation, is allowed in their own texts? Lying to do things that eventually glorify Allah is perfectly understandable and outlinable and acceptable in their texts. So how do we know when they're telling the truth? Do I think we should go as far as the aforementioned Donald Trump that I brought up and place marks on all practicing Muslims? Not only no, but hex to the nah. But I do think that we need to start being more careful. I think one of the ways that we can be more careful is to not bring in all these crazy refugees that everybody's been talking about. Because again, we could send them somewhere closer that would cost a lot less money and take care of more of them. Or we could get them out of harm's way long enough for them to get their feet back under them and maybe go back into their home country again and take it back from the crazy people that are supposedly trying to take it away from them. However, they're all going over here. So again, problem with all of it, because by now it's been called workplace violence a bazillion times. By now it's still, well, it could possibly be terrorism, but it may be workplace violence. I don't know how many times I heard that yesterday and now today. I'm still waiting for the White House, because at the last I have a day job too, so I only get to do this a couple of times throughout the day. Most of the time I don't have access to the news. So as of right now, this moment, I don't know if he's actually said that it was workplace violence or if he's actually finally admitting that this is a terrorist act. Because it was. There's no other justification for going into a room full of crippled people and shooting them up. But for all of you that are outraged because somebody with a gun went into a group of crippled people and shot them, you need to remember what your beloved candidate did last week to another cripple. Is it the same thing? No. Is it still heinous? Yes. And the fact that so many of you want to not only condone, but excuse and forgive what he's done. And just say, hey, it came out wrong. Because here's the thing. There have been all kinds of stories that have come out that have actually corroborated Donald Trump's side of the story about the fact that there were groups of Muslims that were dancing in the streets after the attacks on 9/11. That happened in other countries. I'm sure it probably did happen here. Were there thousands? I don't know. What I do know is there was enough proof out there that he could have proved his side of the story without acting like a total idiot. And he could have tied it all back right around to the Muslims, exactly like we're doing with this workplace violence incident right now, according to the press, because that's pretty much all they've officially called it, because there has been a name that's been released, and this person appears to have been a Muslim. So now we have, again, CARE coming out with this wonderful statement, saying all the right things, but the problem is, do we know whether or not it's true? I leave it up to you to make up your mind as to whether or not CARE is being truthful and honest. What I will tell you is to be very, very careful. Alright, so one last little bit of story that we have to take on right before we get to the break, and that would be the, or no, actually, I lied, because we're actually going to do that with Grouchy here in just a minute. So I guess we are actually just about up to the break anyway. So we're going to go ahead and take a really quick break, folks. We'll be right back. When I come back from break, I'll be joined by the one and the only, the conservative curmudgeon right here on America Off the Rails on WNJC 1360, the powerhouse out of Philadelphia. Thanks for tuning in. Be right back with you here in just a couple minutes.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause it's no longer free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality, respect, or fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, lest you pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause there's no longer free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality, respect, or fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place.
All right, Philadelphia, welcome back. This is Rick Robinson, host of America Off the Rails. You're listening on WNJC 1360 AM, the powerhouse of Philadelphia. Now, join with me today is a good friend of mine. You may know him from the network that I'm building, the Spark Radio Network. I have the one, the only, the grouchy one. You may have met him on Facebook. You probably follow him on Twitter. Now you can listen to him every week on K98Talk.com. Good afternoon, Grouchy. How are you?
I am fantastic, sir. If I were any better, I'd be bottled and sold. Glad to be on board, man.
Glad to have you here. This is actually your first appearance over here in Philadelphia. Now, just in case, because I do get new followers off of this station almost every day, so I'm assuming there's probably people listening right now that have probably never heard of you before. So why don't you take a few minutes, kind of let folks know who you are, what makes you tick, and what it is that you do, and then we'll just kind of get into some of the topics that we talked about beforehand.
Well, first of all, you can find me on Twitter. My handle is TCC_Grouchy. You can find me on Facebook. Facebook page is called The Conservative Curmudgeon. I am a United States Air Force veteran. I saw a good part of the world with the United States Air Force, including Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Let's see, what else? I am known as the bringer of truth. I don't care what side of the aisle politics, who's doing what, as long as you're doing it right, that's a good thing. Mess up, I call you out. I don't care what side you're on. Conservative, liberal, do it wrong, and I will shine the light on you. I don't care, because I want it done right. I want our country to be right. And that's what I'm all about.
All right, well, that was a good little synopsis. Now, for those of you who may have missed it, last night I was actually on Grouchy Show on our home channel, K98 Talk, and the Spark Radio Network. We actually hung out for, I was on for about 40 minutes total, maybe? But anyway, so
45 minutes, something like that.
The funny thing is, before we'd ever even really talked about it, you'd actually already touched on one of the topics that I was definitely going to be bringing up today. Now, before we went to break, of course, we were talking about the shooting and stuff before I brought Grouchy on that happened yesterday. But last night, what we were talking about was this recent rash and outbreak of all of these the Fields Patrol, as I like to call them, that are now raging all over college campuses, that are basically making demands about how we need to make things safer for minorities and everything else. Now, I do have a clip that I'm going to be playing here in just a minute that outlines one of those, not necessarily for the minority movements, but another recent incident that's actually now garnering national attention. But I just wanted to kind of recap some of the things that we talked about last night, just in case folks weren't listening. So, why don't you go ahead and give folks your perspective about that type of stuff for just a couple minutes while I work on getting that clip queued up?
Sure. I think that what we're seeing is a complete and utter runaway situation here. One of the items we covered was that we were wondering when this actually all began, and I made the comment that it began the very first time that somebody said, "Oh, you can't tell little Johnny he's an idiot. You have to say he's acting like an idiot." Now, we can go all the way back to Dr. Spock and his books on parenting. I have a personal opinion that this is the liberal infestation of the education system in America coming to fruition. Frankenstein has created its monster, and now the monster is more powerful than Dr. Frankenstein, and they can't control their monster. So, we went over the list of demands made by the group at Missouri, the absolute farcical demands made by this group. There were 8 of them, and most of them were multi-point demands within each point. So, just absolutely ridiculous that these protests have erupted like they have, all about diversity and safety and freedom, but they don't want anybody else to have those things. They want it inclusive to them.
You know, it's interesting that you referenced the demands that were made, because I have a slightly different take on that I wanted to say for this show, so I didn't really bring it up much last night. But what you call demands, I'm actually starting to see as being put together more of a diversity manifesto.
Oh, absolutely. You could slap a binder on that thing and publish it, and you'd probably sell it in the bookstore in the safe corner for minority feelings, and get $5 a book for it.
I don't know. They could, because of their target audience, they could probably get a little more than that. Because it's just one of those things where they're going to pay like, "Ooh, look, we can get this for $7, and it validates everything that we think and how we feel."
But at the same time, they want it for free.
Good point. But yeah, so just to take things in a little bit different direction, because I don't want to rehash too much of what we talked about last night. As promised last night, I do have a bit of an audio clip that we're going to go ahead and cue up. It's been edited a little bit, but it still gets the point across of what was being talked about during a recent interview that was put together of a college professor and a recent outcry from a Christian university when the Fields Patrol started complaining that they felt like their group was being targeted and harassed during a recent required, in a Christian university, mind you, prayer service. So here's the clip.
One thing I want to make clear before we get into several of the questions here, I'm writing this article as much to culture as I am to these kids. I'm confronting my own industry. I'm looking the academy in the eye. I'm looking the colleges and universities, my peers, in the eye, and I'm saying we've created this monster. We have created this problem. What we have right now is ideological fascism because of the terrible ideas we've been teaching for the last several decades. We don't have intellectual freedom any longer. We have ideological fascism, where if you don't agree, if you're not part of the group, if you don't share the agreed upon and the correct ideas, you will be expelled and you will be silenced. And that's the antithesis of the liberal arts academy. We've brought this on ourselves. Well, and that's, you can't make this up. You have a chapel service, a required chapel service at a Christian university, Oklahoma Wesleyan University, and one of our vice presidents delivers a beautiful homily on 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the quintessential love chapter of the Bible. Right. And it's not political. There's nothing in it that's controversial. There's no sarcasm in the sermon. And the student comes up afterwards and says, I feel uncomfortable with this. You've singled me out and you have singled my peers out. And he throws the victim card. This is a situation that is the poster child of those students or those people in our culture that want to claim that anytime they're uncomfortable, that they should be coddled. And frankly, like I say in my article, I am more interested in confronting your character than I am in coddling you in your sin and selfishness and your narcissism. College is not about being comfortable. College is about being confronted, being challenged, and being built up in character, not being enabled to continue to be immature and selfish in your thoughts and in your behavior.
All right, folks, so there you have it. A college professor actually calling out his own people, his peers, the other professors, both in this school and others, and not only that, but the students, and basically saying something that I have started to feel all along, which is that college campuses have become one of the largest groups of fascistic type people. Is that even a word, fascistic or fascist people? Because basically they spend their parents' money for the most part, or they get government funding to go to school. They typically flush it down the toilet on degrees that typically don't matter, and they spend all of their time in echo chambers hearing exactly what they think they need to hear, which is basically just validation of the beliefs they already hold. And this is the mindset that is now running rampant in college, which is why we now have the Fields Patrol.
And you're absolutely right. And while you were queuing the audio up, and I made the comment that, Frankenstein had made his monster and now can't control it, he basically said the same thing right there in his comments in the audio clip. He blames faculty and staff of these universities, and he is in part correct about that. We should also put some of the blame on moms and dads out there for babying these kids like they have. Let your kid eat some dirt, When they scrape their knee, don't run and scoop them up. Let them learn to cope with it. It won't kill them.
No, I mean completely. And another place that we could place blame, and it has to do with parents and public schooling, and even some of the private sports clubs, are the participation trophies. We have an entire group of people that grew up thinking that everybody wins in the end, and that's really not true.
No, it's not. No, it's not. When you get a grown-up job, and you're not under a walnut shell as the only person that has a degree in I don't know what shall we say, developing nations women's studies. something like that. You learn that your boss doesn't care about you finding yourself. He doesn't care, or she doesn't care about your feelings. What they care about are results. And if you're not providing results, they will find somebody that will. And you can get your little participant box and clean out your little participant desk and boomerang back home to mommy and daddy and collect your unemployment check.
I mean, I don't understand, honestly, where the mindset of participation trophies came from, because it's like we're trying to rewrite nature. I mean, which doesn't make any sense to me from the liberal mindset, because the majority of the liberals are the ones that tell you that, God's not real, that nature's the ultimate decider of everything, and yet, so we're going to throw nature's rules out the window just because it makes everybody feel better? Because, not everybody not everybody should get a trophy. And the thing with the participation trophies is if you get a reward for doing a lackluster job because you're like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to get a participation trophy. Let me go put a little bit of glue on a piece of paper and put a star on it. Yeah, there you go, teach. Here, my homework's done. Oh, look, that's participation trophy.
Yeah. As somebody that has coached athletics, here's my take on participation trophies. Sometimes your child or my child is going to do something in life. They're going to take on this challenge, and sometimes they're going to suck at it. And that's okay. They need to learn that they suck at this particular challenge so that they can either A, put the effort in to improve at it, or B, find something else that they don't suck at and go excel at that. Like you said, it's normal, natural. It's what you do. It's like when you're learning to play basketball, if you're right-handed and they start making you dribble with your left hand, you don't like it. You learn how to do it okay, but you always want that ball in your right hand. Yeah. You're not always going to get what you want.
Well, I mean, and take it a step further, because, the thing, again, to keep in mind with the participation trophies is you're not teaching your child anything. If they get a reward every time, no matter how hard they try, you're not teaching them anything. And this goes back to something even with me, even recently. When I first started doing what I do now, because you mentioned on your show last night, which actually made me blush, you were talking about how I'm on more outlets and affiliates than pretty much anybody that you know. When I first started doing this, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. You can go back to some of the original archives, which I'm not going to tell anybody where they are, but they're still there. And I actually sound like Speedy Gonzalez because I was so nervous the first few shows that we did. Actually, the very first show that we did, when we first did what eventually became Finding Common Ground, it was an old show that we had nicknamed Wobbles and Nubs Present My 2 Cents. The very first episode was so bad that Dave and I, the co-host at the time, actually made fun of it on the second episode. I made fun of myself because I was talking so quickly that it reminded me of Speedy Gonzalez. So I spent half the episode with having the guy that was helping us produce at the time cue up Speedy Gonzalez at random intervals, and Dave would start talking, and during the first episode he was breathing so heavily that he sounded like Darth Vader, so the producer would randomly cue up Darth Vader breathing all the way through the episode, because we were like, screw it, because we sucked and we had 1,200 people listening, so obviously they thought it was hilarious or something. So, but that's the thing. I knew I sucked, but it was something that I wanted to do. So I worked at it, and I continued to work at it because I knew that those first few episodes, they sucked. I didn't get a participation trophy. Nobody said, hey, that show rocks. That didn't happen, and I knew it sucked. I mean, my wife, for the love of God, the first month I was doing this, I was going back through obsessively listening to my old episodes. And my wife, I made the mistake of listening to them with her in the room once. She told me I sounded like flippin' Big Bird.
Big Bird?
Big Bird.
Wow.
Well, here's the thing. My wife knows me. She knows that I'm one of the people that I don't get mad and then give up. I get mad and I keep working at it till I fix it. So she knew how to push my button, and that's exactly what she did. And yeah, I didn't talk to her for like 2 weeks. And then she came back home one day after working on a Saturday. She's like, I listened to you today. It's like, really? What did you think? She's like, you didn't sound like Big Bird anymore, did you? I was like, you never mind.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well.
But yeah, so I mean, the thing about it is, and this is coming from a guy that this is now the third attempt of me trying to build a business. I don't know where this one's going to go. Right now, a lot of the pieces are falling into place, so I'm enjoying the ride as it goes. But you learn more from failing than you do from succeeding. That's one of the things that we're robbing from our children with participation trophies. Because you learn more when you screw up than you do when somebody says, hey, nice job, kid. Yeah, you didn't get anywhere, but here's a trophy.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. And, one of the other things, and I wanted to touch on this. I don't want to hog your airtime, but there's this paradoxical understanding that's being revealed in these millennials that are, these college kids, their idea of home. And it's consistent with larger demographic trends among millennials. But, more of them are waiting longer to move out of the parents' house, including the so-called boomerang effect, the grads moving back in with mom and dad. They're waiting longer to get married. They wait longer to start families, and they're waiting longer to buy their first homes. And there's this relation, they have a different relationship to home than any previous generation, going back probably all the way at least to the 40s. On the one hand, they don't want to leave it. And on the other hand, as these protests have shown, they want to be free from the strictures that come with living under somebody else's roof. They want to be in charge. And maybe it's the parents' fault. At least some of it lies with them. But I think more broadly, more of an endemic campus progressivism is to blame. And
no, I mean, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I mean, I was going to say, somewhere along the way, there's this group of young people that are enrolled at these colleges. Colleges as varied as Yale and Oberlin and Missouri. They get the idea they can be a full-fledged American adult and demand shelter from adult life. And they don't want to feel uncomfortable or offended in any way. And they want to make sure their school administrators guarantee this to them. It's ridiculous.
Well, it all goes back to something that you touched on. A lot of this goes squarely back to the parents, because we have now, and this is, again, something you mentioned on your show last night, you can trace a lot of this back to Dr. Spock, because all of a sudden it became a bad idea to discipline your children, because disciplining your children has adverse effects. I'm going to tell you right now, I spent the majority of my childhood getting my rear end set on fire. I haven't killed anybody yet.
There you go.
There you go. Again, we have this entire group of people that take aberrations in society and trace it back to events that don't correlate, because 98% of the people that grew up in your and my generation faced corporal punishment both at home and in school. 98%, and I'm rounding, of the people of our generation are well-adjusted, well-rounded adults who do their jobs, they go home, they pay their bills. So why is it that because 2% were adversely affected, and some psychological psychobabble nozzleheads said, oh, it's because your parents spanked you when you were a kid, now all of a sudden nobody can spank their children?
And that's it. Look, here's a real quick quote. Let me give this. This was a protesting student at Yale. Okay, this young woman was screaming at the professor in residence for disagreeing with her about his role as master of the college. Okay, this is what she said. His job is to, quote, create a place of comfort and home for the students. It is not about creating an intellectual space. It is not. Do you understand that? It's about creating a home here, and you're not doing that. That's what she told the professor.
So wait, college is supposed to be your home now?
Man, that's what I'm telling you.
Maybe that's where they're getting the idea of the safe spaces from, because they're equating everything with home.
I guess so, and they have absolutely no grasp that even breaks the edge of the realm of reality.
Well, I don't know. So as we actually come to a close on this segment, it looks like we are getting pretty close to the bottom of the hour here. So I'm about to have to make room for the next show coming in on the lineup. Quick question. Let's just say for the sake of argument you had a magic wand. What would you do to fix things in regards to the discussion that we're having today, if you could?
If I had the magic wand, I would roll time back. And I would ensure that we instilled constitutional American values, conservative American values into children of every generation, because we missed a few along the way. And that's coming home to roost right now in these kinds of issues.
Good point. All right, so, and actually I misspoke, folks. We're rounding the top of the hour, so I'm about to have to get out of here. All right, so before we cut out of here, Grouchy, why don't you remind everybody where they can interact with you should they choose to do so, and where they can find your show.
You can find me, first of all, on Twitter. My handle is @TCC_Grouchy. Facebook.com/The Conservative Curmudgeon. And you can find my program every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on K98talk.com. And you can find the replays on Stitcher, TuneIn. You know more about this than I do.
You're also on... Yeah, you're on FM Player, and I think you have recently been picked up by Rebooting Liberty as well.
Rebooting Liberty, yes, absolutely.
All right, well,
absolutely.
Folks, that is going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. I'll be back with you live in Philadelphia right here next week. Don't forget, you can catch the show several other times a week on various outlets, and of course, you can always interact with us live at our home network at thesparkradionetwork.com. If you wish to interact with me, you are welcome to do so in a multitude of ways. You can reach me on Facebook by going to my professional page, www.facebook.com/Rowdy Ricky Robinson. You can interact with me on Twitter at AOTR_host. Yeah, I had to change it. Not anywhere near Oklahoma City anymore, so it didn't make sense to keep the old one. You can also shoot me an email at rick@k98talk.org, or also ricky@thesparkradionetwork.com. You pick the method, you shoot me a message, we'll talk, we'll hang out, we'll chat. It'll be fun. Until next week, Philadelphia, keep your powder dry and keep on paying attention, because they're hoping you're not. I'm just saying. I'll be back next week. Take care.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, lest you pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets cause there's no longer free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality, respect, or fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the